As I walked through the dark kitchen, I could tell by the dusty mildew smell that John didn't visit his nest egg very often. I grew up with a light switch and flicked it on. The cabin was a giant disarray of items. There were piles and piles of electrical cable cords strewn all over the floor like a giant dead snake that refused to rot. In one corner was a stack of Playboy magazines that stood about 4 feet high. The top one had the Marilyn Monroe pictorial. Beside the stack, covered in an inch of dust, was an old jukebox. There were barrels of golf balls standing beside old street lights. There was a dartboard on one of the walls that had a picture of President Kennedy on it. There were millions of little dots on the dead president's face. Hanging from the ceiling was a busted disco ball. A spider had filled in the hole with its web. I went into another room, the bar room. There was a Corvette chassis on the floor. Most of the stuff in the bar room was covered with tarp, and I didn't want to look underneath. There had to be rats in there somewhere, and I wasn't too keen on hearing that loud squeak and something big scurrying over my foot. I walked behind the bar and cautiously sorted through the various boxes. Most of it was junk, little trinkets that I really didn't find interesting. And then my hand came across it. Instantly, I knew what I had. I pulled the black velvet bag up to the dirty white light, and that was 3 times as big as Frenchie's, about the same size as one of those Crown Royal bags. It was nothing elaborate. You could probably find one in any store. But this bag was in the middle of a cornucopia of lost items that were forgotten. It was empty, waiting for me. I just knew it. And I was going to take it. I stuffed the bag down the front of my pants and scurried out of the cabin. I closed the door and started back down to the fire. Before I got even halfway, I saw the naked configuration. I turned and headed out into the woods where I'd be alone with the bag and fell asleep until I heard my mom call my name. The next morning, John took us home. He rambled on with the excuse he had a big business meeting he had forgot about and the weekend would be cut short. Deep down, I knew that John just wanted to take Mom down there to have sex. And judging from her defeated face, I knew she knew it too. "Morning, Peanut, where you been?" Frenchie said as I bounced up onto the porch. I couldn't wait to show him the bag. I pulled it out of my pocket and set it in the sandpaper hand. He smiled and let out that laugh. "Whoo, yeah," he whispered. "That may do just fine. Black, ain't it?" "How did you know?" I asked, waving my hand in front of his face. Sometimes I could have sworn he could see. He brushed my hand away. "Peanut, I'm blind as a mole. I know your bag is black because I know you. You a mysterious one, yeah. Black your style. Is that bad?" "No, Peanut. Nothing wrong with what keep you going. You keep that bag. Whatever you find that gives you fuzzy feeling, you hold it tight. Drop it in the bag and never take it out again. Keep the memory of it in your heart. We make something of you yet." I sat on the porch holding the bag all morning, anxious to find what went in it. It was going to be something powerful. I just didn't know what. I was walking home when I saw something in the road in front of our house. As I got closer, I dropped the pole and took off running toward the thing in the road. One eye staring blankly up at me, Biscus was sprawled out on the blacktop. His teeth were stretched back into a clown-like grin. Blood had begun to harden around his muzzle and his neck, and a puddle of blood trailed away from him in long streaks. Whatever had hit him was going fast. Probably hadn't even slowed down when they saw him. A small piece of his brain had oozed out of a hole in his head. "Oh, God, no, Biscus. Oh, God, no, 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 no." I screamed until my throat hurt. My entire body hurt. Biscus just stared up at me, helpless. I couldn't leave him in the road until his owners got home. Some people would swerve just to hear him crunch under their tires. Tears. Fuck. Love that dog. Tears still streaming from my eyes, I grabbed Biscus's feet and started to pull. His body moved with a sluggish hiss, and a part of his brain trailed the body like jelly. I sat down in the grass, holding my knees to my chin. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I heard Frenchie. Keep it close to your heart, Peanut. I grabbed the handkerchief out of my back pocket, knelt beside Biscus, and soaked the handkerchief where his heart was. I'm so sorry, Biscus. When the handkerchief was completely red, I ran into the woods where I sat on the cool river bank, pulled the empty mojo bag out of my pocket, and dropped the handkerchief into the darkness. I pulled the drawstring tight and held the bag up to my temple. It felt right, like there was a sense of release words cannot explain. I shook with the fear and the pain of seeing Biscus, but it felt right. After a while, the tears stopped, and I leaned back on the bank. All that time, not one mosquito tried to feed on me. Not one gnat tried to bury itself in my eye. It was like everything knew and let me have my peace. I knelt down by the water, grabbed a handful of the river mud and put it in the bag. The magic needed some place to put its roots, and this place held something I might not find again. I drew the string tight and walked back home, empty from crying so much, but alive. In the following weeks, crab claw, pigeon skull, and a rose went into the bag. I was wandering through an old cemetery where legend had it that an old witch doctor was buried. I found the piece of what I thought was a skull, and still believe it to this day, and that went into the bag. All of these things held a mystery to me, and as I dropped them in the bag, never to be taken out again, I could feel them growing in my head. I had something to hold on to, something all to myself that I could latch on to when the name-calling came around, when the sounds of my mother and her men haunted me in my sleep. What happens if I see something in the bag when I open it to put something in there? I asked Frenchie. You don't see nothing, Peanut. When you open the bag, all you will see is a dark hole. Remember that, yeah. And I did. Each time I opened the bag, I didn't want to see what was in there. If I didn't want to see it, I wouldn't. Mom shook me awake, and as I swam up from the ocean of dreams, I thought I was in trouble. My groggy mind tried to think of what I had done wrong. Come on, honey, wake up. I wasn't in trouble. I knew from that voice we were moving again. Every time she poisoned the ground where we were, overstayed her welcome is what I always called it, it was time to leave. All things came to an end, and my stay in Louisiana did also. Mom found yet another boyfriend, another construction worker who had landed a big job in Nevada and was taking us with him. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to bring myself awake. The sun wasn't even up yet. She was definitely in a hurry. It was my guess she was skipping on rent and wanted to get out before the landlord was awake. I watched through sleepy eyes as Mom tried to hurry and pack what little belongings we had. I was used to it all by now, sort of grew numb to the constant moving. But then I realized that I was never going to see Frenchie again. No, it was not fair. I wouldn't go. I had finally found somebody that liked me, somebody I could talk to, and now she was packing me up like a suitcase again, and I wasn't going to see him anymore. I honestly think a part of me died that morning. There wasn't going to be, you take care, Peanut. It was over. I slid my hand beneath my pillow and pulled out the mojo bag. I was damn sure not going to leave it behind. I hated her for what she was doing to me. As we were packed into the truck, Mom clung to the boyfriend like a bird does to a sock. I clung to the bag. I sat in the middle and peeked over the dashboard as we went by the store. Sitting on the porch with his hands on his lap, rocking back and forth was Frenchie. those wide eyes staring up at the sky. I wanted to roll down the window and scream goodbye, but I couldn't because I was pinned between the two adults. When the magic is gone, the heart turns cold, and then you wither away into nothing but skin and bones. Frenchie echoed in the back of my head where he would stay forever, always there helping me along the way. Did he know I was leaving? He had probably gotten up early and was rocking, waiting for me in his red stripe. I was never going to be there again. I bowed my head so Mom wouldn't see me crying. The last thing I remember on that blue morning was Frenchie rocking in his chair, those eyes seeing everything, that smile, and his soft voice saying, "Whatever it takes to keep the heart warm, Peanut."